I mean, in this guy's case, you met him and prayed with him and didn't see him again for 2 years.
Oh, I didn't pray with him. He didn't.
Well, you prayed for him.
I just asked if I could say a prayer for him because he was suffering. He was sick.
Did you pray out loud?
I did.
I would think that any other kind of life for you would be a real come down. This must be a very satisfying life that you're leading.
Absolutely. It's a constant challenge. It's a constant adventure.
What about women's prisons? Do you get into them?
Yes, I do.
Do you see similar dynamics in women's prisons to male? Or
different dynamics.
Tell me about the difference. What's the difference?
I think there's a greater sense of hopelessness in women's prison.
Why do you think that is?
Well, to use a vernacular, a woman who's been to prison is damaged goods.
Mm.
Now, nobody wants a woman who's been to prison.
Mm. What about the social dynamic?
It's much more difficult. They've got kids that they can't care for.
Yeah.
They're often more alienated and more marginalized from their families, because when a woman messes up, you know, they're really gone. Society generally is quicker to lock up a male than to lock up a female. And by the time society comes to the point where they will lock up a female, they've gone pretty far down the track.
Are women more or less difficult to lead to Christ, or about the same as guys? Is it a different approach? How do you do this?
Well, I don't lead anybody to Christ.
No, of course you don't. The Holy Spirit does that.
Holy Spirit does that,
Yeah.
and I don't know if it's difficult, more difficult.
So it's the
less
same
difficult.
dynamic. You're showing care, you're showing concern, you're consistent, you're faithful.
I do know that when I go into a women's prison and I show that I care for the women, I respect them, I'm willing to embrace them, which I do, it makes a lot of difference. They brighten up, they're ecstatic, they absolutely feel affirmed. Now, it's very transitory because I'm not there all the time.
Yeah.
But it says that there is a possibility of hope because maybe there are other people like that who care. Or maybe this guy who he was talking about, this Jesus guy, is like that, really.
How has 30 years of prison fellowship impacted Ron Nikkel? We all go through a maturation process, of course. We're all 30 years older than we were 30 years ago. But in terms of what you've been exposed to and what you're dealing with, what's the core impact on you?
I've become a believer in Jesus. I moved from the head to the heart.
All right.
And I knew theologically and perhaps in a rudimentary faith sort of way that Jesus was the way, the truth, and the life.
Yeah.
But it was quite separate from the way I lived my life. By going into prison, I've become absolutely convinced, beyond any shadow of a doubt, that Jesus is alive and that he is true and that he is the way. Because I see lives transformed. That's been an awesome, awesome privilege, and I don't know where I'd be if I hadn't seen Jesus in prison.
Ron Nikkel, President and CEO of Prison Fellowship International, thanks very much.
Thank you.